Welcome to the coronavirus update for the food industry, brought to you by Cornell's Institute for Food Safety. Let's first review the COVID-19 case metrics. And as you can see here in the middle of this screen, the numbers are bad. Daily cases hitting all-time highs almost every day. Daily number of currently hospitalized hit all-time high. And even daily deaths are growing above and beyond what we've seen early in the pandemic in the US. So by all means, the predictions of a dark winter are coming true. And this highlights the continued and enhanced importance of maintaining our vigilance, reinforcing and strengthening the different precautions from wearing face coverings, social distancing, staying home as much as we can, and all the things the food industry does to protect their workers. We cannot give up on these because it is so important that we stick with it this winter. If you look at more details in terms of numbers that we see in New York, here's the percent positive tests by different regions, and we can see central New York and western New York high here, which consistent with what we've heard about high case numbers in Buffalo and Rochester. For those of you not from New York, taking a look at these type of data, knowing where the regions lie with regard to COVID cases, where you have processing facilities is ever so important in order for you to fine-tune and manage your facilities with regard to COVID-19 control. But there's a glimpse of hope. We've heard a lot about vaccines, and I think there's also a lot of anxiety about vaccines. So I want to quickly talk about vaccines in the second part of this short presentation today. The two current front runners for vaccines are messenger RNA or mRNA vaccines. You may have heard that these are new technologies. There are no commercial vaccines with these technologies out there yet, but there's no reason to assume that this technology is less safe than existing vaccines. These have been platforms that have been developed for a long time. There are a number of biological factors that make these vaccines very, very safe. The next level of vaccines coming along after the messenger RNA vaccines are likely going to be adenovirus-based vaccines. Again, a vaccine platform that's been developed for a while. There's no evidence at all that these technologies are less safe than existing vaccines. Now, the other thing a lot of people have concerns about is the fact that vaccine development this time seems to have come so fast. And we hear concerns about that. In that push to develop a vaccine, we may have made shortcuts that might mean these vaccines are not as safe as they could be. There's no evidence for that. Why do we go so fast? We've put a lot more money on behind these vaccines than anything before. We stopped, many of these pharmaceutical companies stopped or reduced efforts on other drug development efforts just to focus all their efforts on this vaccine. And last but not least, with the large number of cases we have, it is easier to get enough numbers in trials to quickly prove that a vaccine works. So these vaccines are safe, they will be safe, and the key challenge is now, how do we effectively deliver these vaccines to a population in an orderly fashion? Now, there are a number of unknowns, and we need to be clear on these. The lengths of immunity will conferred after vaccination is still by and large unknown. We should expect to see people being immune and showing an ability to fight off the virus more effectively for about 6 to 12 months. If you're lucky, it's longer, but all current data point towards 6 to 12 months. That means, just like with some other vaccines, we have to expect that people need boosters after 12 months. For those of us in the food and agriculture industry, don't expect food and ag workers to be able to get vaccines before February or March 2021. There are others higher up in the priority list, whether it's healthcare workers, whether it's law enforcement, whether it is people that live in long-term care facilities where we see a very high level of death due to COVID-19 and some of the most severe consequences. That's where we expect to deliver vaccines first. The plans are being made. Now it's important for you and for all of us to trust the systems in place, to trust that the systems are working to assure these vaccines are safe and effective, and to also trust the system in terms of prioritizing who will get these vaccines first. But for food industry, there's another thing to do now. It's time to prepare for what to do when vaccination starts. Talk to your lawyers to figure out whether you can require vaccination of your employees. This is still an open area. There's some evidence that one can, but it may not be simple. So take a look at this, find out what you will do when these vaccines are available. The other challenge I see on the horizon is, how will you assure continuation of current control strategies, face mask wearing, social distancing, etc., particularly once you have some but not all people in your facility vaccinated? Some people may want to not wear face masks, may want to do less social distancing because they were vaccinated, or because they have had COVID-19 and survived and recovered from it. Can you make it clear which people can and do less social distancing, may not wear face masks? Probably not. My advice today is you have to continue to require consistent use of face covering, consistent social distancing, consistent implementation of the different control strategies. As we further down this pathway, this may change, but for right now, do not expect that you will be able to stop or reduce these control strategies sometimes early or middle of next year. Partially because we still don't know how much reduced shedding we will get with vaccines. People who are vaccinated might be less likely and will be less likely to get sick, will be less likely to get severe disease, but they still may shed the virus for certain time periods. Shorter, less virus probably, but not nil. So a lot of unanswered questions there. They don't put in doubt the effectiveness of the vaccination, the importance of getting vaccinated, but will throw up new challenges how we manage this transition time in the food industry. So start working on this now, because it looks like some of these vaccines will be pushed out pretty quickly. If you want more information, more details, there are a lot of reliable sources, whether it's the Centers for Disease Control, the Journal of the American Medical Association has a YouTube channel, and the New York Times Coronavirus Vaccine Tracker, if you want to know where in the different stages of development and deployment the different vaccines are. With that, I want to thank the funding from USDA that makes this program available. And as always, remind you to keep practice social distancing, wear face coverings, wash your hands with soap and water, and stay home as much as possible as we work through this. Thank you very much.